The story opens with a heavy atmosphere of political intrigue. A tall man in a dark suit stands with his back to us, overlooking a shadowy crowd of elite figures. The text emphasizes the sheer gravity of his target. A lone prosecutor going after both a chaebol and a politician? A footnote clarifies the immense power he is up against, defining a chaebol as a massive, family-run South Korean conglomerate. He is not just fighting a person, he is fighting an empire. The camera focuses on the shadowy silhouette of a man who represents the pinnacle of influence. The stakes are raised even higher as the narration continues, especially when that politician is being considered as a presidential candidate. The purple glowing text underscores the danger of the situation. The prosecutor is effectively trying to topple a man on the verge of becoming the most powerful person in the country. Despite the magnitude of the task, the prosecutor is completely alone. Two speech bubbles drift over an abstract, high-tension background, noting that no one put him up to it, and it's not like he has any connections to back him up. This highlights his isolation. He has no powerful allies or secret backers. He is a man driven by a motive that those around him cannot comprehend. The scene shifts to a more personal, chibi-style interaction between two characters to lighten the heavy mood, though the underlying tension remains. A brown-haired man sighs inwardly, thinking, "Sigh, if only I knew why you're doing this." The dark-haired prosecutor, looking calm and stoic even in this simplified form, asks, "What did you say?" This exchange highlights the mystery surrounding the prosecutor's true intentions. Finally, we see the brown-haired man standing in a modern professional office. He turns to leave, his posture tense as he places a hand on his hip. He dismisses the previous question with a curt, "Nothing. I'll be going now, so just make sure you keep your end of the deal." The wide shot of the office, filled with stacks of documents and a sterile atmosphere, reminds us of the long, difficult legal battle that lies ahead. The prosecutor, seated at his desk, gives a final, short confirmation to his visitor. Overwhelmed by the stacks of case files and legal books surrounding him, he simply replies, "All right," signaling that the deal is struck and it is time to return to the isolation of his work. As the visitor departs, a hand is seen waving from the foreground, a casual gesture that contrasts with the sterile, high-pressure environment of the prosecutor's office. "See you later," the visitor calls out. The prosecutor remains at his station, framed by rows of blinds and blue storage boxes labeled "Prosecutor," already mentally moving back into his investigation. The heavy sound of the door closing, clump, echoes through the room, leaving the prosecutor in total silence. He doesn't look up immediately, his eyes cast downward in deep thought. The only sound remaining is the weight of his own unspoken reflections as he processes the gravity of the information he has just received. With his guest gone, the prosecutor's focus becomes razor-sharp. He casts a silent glance toward a specific document held in his hand, his expression unreadable but intense. Clad in a professional blue sweater and white-collared shirt, he looks every bit the diligent investigator ready to dig through the layers of deception. In a moment of quiet introspection, the truth behind his actions begins to surface. As he stares at the evidence, his inner monologue reveals the personal nature of this quest. He thinks to himself, "Here I am, voluntarily digging into Dong Song's background for that woman." This admission hints that while the case involves powerful politicians and conglomerates, his true driving force might be a promise made to someone special. The story begins with a close-up of a woman with long, reddish-brown hair. She appears deep in thought, perhaps a bit tense, as she listens to a final ultimatum or a decisive proposal. A speech bubble hangs over her, stating firmly, "Contact me if you decide to take my offer." This sets a mysterious tone, suggesting a high-stakes deal or a life-changing choice is now resting entirely in her hands. The scene shifts to a handsome man sitting in a professional office setting. He is dressed in a blue sweater over a white-collared shirt, looking relaxed yet intently focused. As he reviews a document in his hand, a slight, intrigued smile plays on his lips. He thinks to himself, "What an interesting woman," indicating that the previous character's actions or reputation have caught his attention and sparked a newfound fascination. The setting moves to a cluttered desk filled with stationery, scissors, and notebooks, symbolizing the busy environment of a planning office. An off-screen voice expresses shock and confusion regarding a sudden change in plans. The speech bubbles read, "You want to revisit the direction of the exhibition planning? What do you mean?" This highlights a moment of professional friction and a sudden shift in the project's strategy. As the discussion continues, the characters try to figure out the hierarchy and the sequence of events. One person points out, "I thought Miss Zhonghua was in charge of the Ulsol exhibition." Another responds to confirm the chain of communication. "Yes, so Miss Zhonghua called Miss Ulsol." This dialogue establishes the key players involved in the exhibition and suggests that a complicated web of communication is at play. Finally, we see a woman in a pink blouse and gray skirt standing in the middle of the office. Her eyes are tightly shut, her brow is furrowed, and her hands are clasped nervously in front of her. The word grimace appears beside her, vividly capturing her distress. She seems to be the one bearing the brunt of the exhibition's complications, feeling the immense pressure of the situation as she navigates the difficult demands of her superiors. The tension in the office reaches a boiling point as the true nature of the conflict is revealed. The subordinate, standing stiffly with her hands clasped in a gesture of extreme discomfort, reports a shocking development. She hesitantly explains the reason for the project's sudden halt, but apparently Miss Ulsol cursed her out. This reveal highlights a significant interpersonal breakdown that has left the planning team in a state of paralysis. The situation grows even more complicated as the subordinate continues her report to her superior, Miss G. Looking down at the troubled, pink-haired woman, the dialogue reveals that Miss Ulsol has become completely uncooperative with the junior staff. The speech bubble explains that Miss Ulsol insisted on speaking only with you, Miss G, so Miss Zhenghua is in a tight spot right now. The pressure is now squarely on Miss G to step in and fix the mess. We get a close-up of Miss G, who listens to the report with a troubled and weary expression. Clad in a professional black turtleneck and white blazer, she holds a pen as if she was in the middle of work before being interrupted by this crisis. A single bead of sweat on her face betrays her internal stress as she processes the fact that she must now personally deal with the notoriously difficult Miss Ulsol. Deciding to take charge of the situation to relieve her staff, Miss G offers a solution. She calmly instructs her subordinate, "All right, I'll give Miss Ulsol a call after lunch. You can go back to your work." Hearing this, the junior staff member is overcome with visible relief, her eyes brightening as she exclaims, "Okay, thank you, Miss G." The sequence concludes with a wide shot of the office. Miss G remains seated at her desk, the weight of the upcoming phone call still hanging over her. Meanwhile, the subordinate is seen bowing deeply in gratitude, indicated by the bow sound effect as she prepares to leave the office, thankful that her superior has stepped in to handle the verbal aggression of their difficult client. The story begins with a sense of quiet observation. From over the shoulder of a person in the foreground, we see a woman with long, reddish-brown hair tied in a high ponytail, sitting at her office desk. The atmosphere is professional, yet slightly tense, set against the backdrop of large floor-to-ceiling windows, revealing a hazy cityscape. A sharp clack echoes through the room, perhaps the sound of a door closing or an object being placed firmly, signaling the start of an interaction. The perspective shifts lower, focusing on the physical space between the two individuals. We see the edge of a modern white desk and the sleek lines of an office chair. The foreground is dominated by the blurred sleeve of a pale pink shirt as someone moves closer. The sound effect, clack, repeats, emphasizing the rhythmic, deliberate footsteps or the mechanical sounds of a busy office environment as the distance between the characters closes. In a close-up shot, the woman's hand reaches down to her hip or lower back. The word pat appears on the screen, indicating a light rhythmic tapping or a gesture of self-soothing. She seems to be checking for something, or perhaps trying to ease a physical sensation, her fingers pressing against the dark fabric of her trousers. This moment suggests a subtle shift from professional composure to personal preoccupation. The focus returns to the woman's face in a tight profile shot. Her expression is one of clear exhaustion or mild distress. A small bead of sweat trickles down her temple, and her mouth is slightly agape as she exhales a heavy sigh. Floating near her head is the bold text, "Sore," highlighting the physical toll the day has taken on her. Despite her elegant earrings and polished appearance, her weary eyes betray her internal fatigue. Finally, the camera pulls back to show her torso as she adjusts herself in her seat. She wears a crisp white button-down shirt tucked into high-waisted dark trousers. One hand is placed firmly on her thigh as she straightens her posture, seemingly trying to find a comfortable position despite the soreness she feels. The lighting catches the shimmer of her hair and the professional setting of the office, capturing a quiet, private moment of a woman preparing herself to face whatever task comes next. The atmosphere shifts from professional to intensely personal as a dark-haired man leans in close to the woman, their faces mere inches apart. A playful yet sharp smirk dances on his lips as he gazes into her eyes, his presence overwhelming her space. He speaks with a challenging tone. Looks like we'll have to redefine what cold as stone means, suggesting that her composed exterior is finally beginning to melt under his influence. The impact of his words and proximity is immediate and physical. A close-up shot focuses on the woman's ear, where a vivid red blush creeps across her skin, betraying her flustered state. Even as she tries to remain still, the heat rising to her face is undeniable. Her elegant, square-shaped diamond earring catches the light, contrasting with the warm, flushed tone of her skin as she struggles to maintain her stone-cold mask. Despite the internal chaos, the narrative focus remains on the necessity of their situation. A speech bubble appears near her jawline, stating firmly, "All we have to do is just put on an act." This line serves as a reminder, perhaps to herself or as part of their shared plan, that this intense interaction is supposed to be a performance, even if the physical reactions she is feeling seem far too real to be scripted. Back at her desk, the woman is left alone with her thoughts, staring down at her workspace. Her hand rests near her smartphone, which lies next to an office telephone and a stack of documents. Her internal monologue is filled with uncertainty as she wonders, he wouldn't go this far just to back out, would he? The physical distance has returned, but the mental weight of their previous encounter lingers, leaving her to question his true intentions. In the final moment, the woman reaches out to her phone, her fingers hovering just over the screen. The word "halt" appears in a jagged, dark red font, illustrating her sudden indecision. Her mind is a whirlwind of conflict as she stares at the device, a single question echoing in her thoughts. Should I ask him? She is caught between the need for professional clarity and the fear of what his answer might reveal about the act they are playing. Finally, the frame zooms in for a dramatic close-up of the moment of truth. Her slender fingers are now pressed firmly against the dark, reflective screen of the phone. The action lines flanking the device suggest a sudden, decisive movement or the vibrating buzz of a notification. This is the point of no return, the bridge between her internal hesitation and the external reality of making contact. The narrative flashes back to the catalyst of her current distress. Superimposed over a blurred background of a vanity or dressing table, her memories echo with the weight of time and a past conversation. She calculates the hours with agonizing precision. It's only been half a day since I said that to him. Below that memory, another bubble recalls her own ultimatum or invitation. Contact me if you decide to take my offer. The contrast between her bold offer and her current hesitation underscores the high stakes of this social gamble. The scene opens with a moment of raw, quiet vulnerability. A woman with long, cascading waves of mahogany hair sits in the dim light of a room, her expression clouded with a mixture of apprehension and deep thought. Her shoulders are bare, and she clutches a white fabric, perhaps a bedsheet or a towel, tightly against her chest, as if using it as a shield against her own uncertainty. A single bead of sweat or a nervous tear traces her cheek, highlighting the tension she feels as she gazes off into the distance, lost in a difficult decision. The focus shifts to her current state, now dressed professionally in a crisp white blouse over a dark turtleneck. Despite her composed outward appearance, her inner monologue betrays her anxiety. A thought bubble looms above her, revealing the pride and fear warring within her mind. I don't want to seem desperate. It is a classic internal struggle, the need to move forward versus the fear of losing her dignity in the eyes of another. The tension moves from her mind to her physical actions. Sitting at a desk littered with official documents and a coiled phone cord, her hand hovers tentatively over her smartphone. The sharp lines of her business attire and the sterile environment of the office emphasize the professional nature of the deal she is contemplating. Her fingers are tense, almost trembling as she reaches for the device that could change everything with a single tap. The source of the disturbance is revealed, the sharp, persistent ring of her office landline. The camera angles down toward the stark white telephone sitting on her desk, its coiled cord twisting like a living thing. Nearby, her modern smartphone sits silent, making the traditional ring of the desk phone feel even more formal and demanding of her immediate attention. With a soft click, she lifts the receiver, her professional mask sliding perfectly into place. Her expression is now one of cool, focused determination as she brings the handset to her ear. She introduces herself with practiced poise, her voice likely steady despite the earlier flinch. "Hello, this is So-young Ji." At this moment, she is no longer the vulnerable woman in the shadows, but a woman of business taking control of the conversation. The contemplative silence is shattered by a sudden, jarring sound that causes her to flinch. The narrative shifts to an extreme close-up of her eye, wide with a mixture of shock and involuntary reaction. The sharp, jagged lettering of the sound effect underscores the physical jolt to her system, pulling her instantly out of her deep internal monologue and back into the high-pressure reality of her office. The scene transitions into a sequence of brief, clipped acknowledgments as she listens to the voice on the other end. The dialogue bubbles are sparse, reflecting a one-sided conversation where she is receiving important instructions or confirmation. Her responses are short and professional, "Yes," and "Yes, I understand," indicating that the offer discussed earlier may finally be reaching its critical turning point. The sequence concludes with a final decisive commitment. Standing in the center of her bright, minimalist office, she delivers a firm promise. "I'll be there right away." The wide shot of the room, with its clean lines and soft light, symbolizes the clarity she has finally found. The hesitation is gone, the decision has been made, and she is ready to step out and face whatever or whoever is waiting for her. The scene opens with a wide, somber shot of a young woman standing alone in a vast, minimalist space. Her posture is guarded, hands clasped tightly in front of her as she gazes downward, avoiding any direct eye contact. She is dressed in a professional yet modest ensemble, a crisp white-collared shirt over a black turtleneck and high-waisted dark trousers. The atmosphere is thick with tension, punctuated only by the faint, shimmering dust motes dancing in the cold light, emphasizing her isolation and the weight of the conversation about to unfold. The focus shifts to an older, elegant woman who exudes an air of calculated authority. Adorned with large, shimmering diamond earrings that catch the light, she wears a confident, almost predatory smile. Without any room for pleasantries, she delivers a sharp, direct blow to the silence. "I'll get straight to the point," she declares, her eyes fixed on her target. "Dongsong came by the house yesterday." The mention of the name carries a heavy significance, acting as a catalyst for the brewing conflict. We see a close-up of the older woman's attire, a vibrant, bold red dress with structured shoulders and large decorative buttons, cinched at the waist with a black belt. Her hand rests near her collarbone, a gesture that appears refined but serves to highlight her status. Every detail of her appearance, from the delicate necklace to the perfectly coiffed hair, suggests a person used to being in control of both her surroundings and the lives of those within them. She is the picture of unwavering composure against the younger woman's visible unease. The climax of the exchange arrives with a startling revelation. The older woman's voice rings out through a speech bubble. "He says he wants to marry you." The words hang in the air, heavy and transformative. Below the text, the younger woman's hands are shown trembling. A sharp flinch sound effect underscores her physical reaction to the news. Her knuckles are white, and her body stiffens, signaling a deep sense of shock, dread, or perhaps a realization that her fate is being decided by others without her consent. The scene opens with a heavy air of finality. A speech bubble looms at the top of the frame, delivering a strict and perhaps daunting deadline. By the end of this year at the latest. Below the text, we see the side profile of a woman with long, wavy, mahogany red hair tied into a high ponytail. She wears a sharp, professional outfit consisting of a dark turtleneck layered under a crisp, white-collared shirt. Her expression is veiled in shadow, but her posture remains rigid. A distinctive diamond-shaped silver earring glints on her ear, catching the light as she absorbs the weight of the words spoken to her. The camera shifts to a medium close-up, revealing the woman's face in full detail. Her large, amber-colored eyes are wide, trembling slightly with a mixture of shock and dawning apprehension. The high ponytail style emphasizes the elegant curve of her neck and the sharpness of her features. She looks slightly upward and off-camera, as if staring at the person who just delivered the ultimatum. The background is blurred and bright, suggesting a formal or office-like environment, which contrasts with the internal turmoil visible in her gaze. Her lips are parted just a fraction, as if she is breathless, struggling to process the gravity of the timeline she has been given. The final frame captures the immediate emotional aftermath. The woman's physical presence is pushed to the periphery, partially obscured and faded, as the focus shifts entirely to her internal reaction. A jagged, spiked speech bubble, indicating a sharp internal jolt or a sudden exclamation, dominates the center of the frame. Inside, the word "what" is written in a deep magenta hue. The background is filled with vertical vertical speed lines and a hazy, sparkling texture, visual metaphors for the feeling of the world spinning or the heart racing. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated disbelief, marking a turning point in the narrative where the character's reality has been fundamentally shaken.